All you guys. One of the exciting days of the year, truly, for college football and college sports, and you don't need to hear that from me, so I'll introduce 7th year head coach Rob Ash.
Thank you, Bill. Welcome, everybody. Boy, we've got a nice microphone.
Yeah.
All ready to go. Well, it gives me great pleasure to announce the 2013 recruiting class. Signing day is, like Bill said, it's the best day of the year for a football coach. It's Christmas, New Year's Day, happy birthday, all those holidays all together in one day. Finally getting a chance to talk about these young men that we've been recruiting in some cases for at least an entire year. And now's the first time that we actually get a chance to mention them. It was a good year for us because we had a lot of scholarships available. We had 17 graduating seniors, as you remember, on senior day out here. And so we're announcing 20 new players today. But the big thing that you need to understand is before we ever hit the trail to recruit this year, after the season was over and so forth, we sat down and identified 4 guys in our program that were guys that were either on partial scholarships or walk-ons that we wanted to reward first. So we took a slice out of our scholarship budget to reward guys that are on our team now before we went on the road with the money to go out and sign this recruiting class. It's part of our strategy to bring in guys who are good walk-ons, guys like our 2 captains from last year, Caleb Schreibeis and Sean Sampson, that came in as walk-ons, ended up as full scholarship, all-conference, all-American type players. And so we wanted to take care of some of those guys first before we hit the trail. But in spite of that, we still managed to come up with 20 commitments on this list, and we filled most of our needs. And a lot of the credit, really all the credit, goes to the coaches. I'd like our coaches to just come up here to the side so I can introduce you quickly and kind of where your territories are, so that it's not just about me sitting up here, but about the coaches as well. Our recruiting coordinator was new to that job this year, but not new to the staff. Coach Beck, Bo Beck, took over the duties when Noah Joseph left a year ago. Bo recruits down to Houston, also managed the entire system for our recruiting. Next, Jason McIndoe. Jason worked out in Minneapolis this year, also in the eastern 2/3 of the state, 3/4 of the state of Montana. He's got 90% of the state driving-wise and does a great job in-state recruiting. Also, Eric Link is next. Eric did some work in Las Vegas, but his primary responsibility was the other part of the state of Montana, basically west of here. And Brian Von Bergen, our receivers coach, he recruits out in Seattle, Portland. Did an excellent job out there this year. Next, Jamie Marshall, our defensive coordinator, who recruits Colorado. Demo Odoms, running back coach, recruits down in Texas, as does Brandon North. Our defensive back coach, a 3rd guy down in Texas. And then we have Toby Ninus, who recruits down in California, where he was very familiar with the high schools down in that area. Our other California recruiter was Kane Ione. So that's the whole staff. And hiding behind them, I see Garrett Becker, who did all the video work when the guys came and visited, along with Connor Firstman, who did the highlight tapes and so forth. So there's a hand for all of our guys. Back in 2007, when we got here, we identified our recruiting philosophy, and we had 3 major points of that recruiting philosophy. The first one was that we would recruit players in the state first. The second part of it was that we would recruit high school players and not transfers. And the third part of it was we would recruit student athletes who could succeed academically here. And the overriding factor, though, of all 3 of those categories was they had to be able to play. Be good enough to compete in the Big Sky Conference. But with those 3 parameters, I'd like to just take a quick look at the class. The first one was to recruit in-state. And out of the 20 names that you'll see there, 11 of them are from Montana. So we did a terrific job recruiting in the state. A lot of the credit goes to Coach Mack and Coach Link, who tirelessly spend that windshield time going around to the various high schools. But Coach Beck, I'm going to bring him up a little bit later to talk to you a little bit more in detail about some different things we did this year that helped us gain such a large number of in-state recruits. Interesting to look at the breakdown of the group of Montana guys, everywhere from Fairview to Kalispell. We didn't have a 6-man player this year, but we did have an 8-man guy or 2 all the way up to AA. A lot of variety and versatility in that class. Players of the year in a couple of different levels, and just some great all-around athletes in a wide variety of locations and teams and levels. Second priority is to recruit high school players instead of transfers, and you'll see that 18 of the 20 players are high school players. Our 2 transfers are already here, Ejima Armstrong and Tanner Roderick. And it's interesting to note on those two transfers that those are both guys that we actually recruited in high school as well. Ejima was recruited by Kane Ione over in California before he signed with Hawaii. And of course, we recruited Tanner very heavily here out of Bozeman until he signed with Nevada. So even our two transfers are not your typical transfers, guys that are coming from junior colleges or guys that we didn't know anything about. Both these guys that we took as transfers were guys we had a relationship with in high school. And then the other 18 are all high school guys coming in. So we've stayed true to our philosophy there as well. And the third area, the student athletes who can succeed academically. I will say not every guy in this class is a rocket scientist, okay? But some actually are. Okay, so and when you look at our engineering program, that's probably the key element for 4 or 5 of the decisions that were made was to be able to come here because of our outstanding engineering program. There was a question that was asked of me. I was standing right here at this podium back in 2007 in June. There was a public forum. I was interviewing for the job here at Montana State, and one of the questioners in the audience said, Coach Ash, how are you going to ever win at Montana State when you have such high academic standards, such a tough curriculum, no place to hide, the players, they don't have any easy places, easy courses to take. How are you going to win if that's the situation? You're the toughest academic school in the Big Sky Conference. And I said, well, we're going to win because we're the best academic school in the Big Sky Conference. And we're going to use the academic programs to draw outstanding players to this program. And we have a perfect example of that in our class this year, a young man named Falabi Akanbi, who's from Houston, Texas, Coach Beck's recruit. Falabi's family is from Nigeria. His father is a doctor. His mother is a nurse. He's 6'5" and 290, so that got our attention also. But he's an outstanding student, and his family's priority was to find an academic school first where he could also play Division I football. And they had offers from many, many schools around the state of Texas and neighboring states to Texas. But he chose Montana State because of the academic program that he discovered in his research, taking a look at the schools that were interested in him for football. And so we used the academic prowess of our school to land Falabi and several other guys in this class. But you look at the range, and we can't publish their GPAs and tell you exactly what they are, but I'll give you a couple numbers. 4 of the guys in this class have a GPA of 3.92 or higher. 4 guys. Okay, 17 of the 20 have a 2.75 GPA or higher. Okay, and 10 of the 20 guys have a 3.0 or higher. So the vast majority of these guys are going to be very comfortable and successful academically. Last thought here before I bring Bo up, I just wanted to mention, because I get asked a lot, what are your plans? Can any of these guys play right away? We're not going to target anybody today in the high school group as being, the star of the class or a guy that's going to play. Our plans are to try to play, to redshirt as many of these guys as possible, especially the high school guys. We think Ejima and Tanner as transfers, they're here now, they're in class, they're training with the team. Those 2 guys can play, and they'll get a chance to get out in the field and play. And we'll give everybody a chance. We'll give all the high school seniors who are true freshmen in the fall a chance to play. That's our promise to them, and we legitimately do that, and we've done it in the past. But our hope is we could redshirt as many of these guys as possible and get them in 5 years here, 4.5 years here, and get that 5th-year season as an opportunity to have them play compared to what they could give us as a freshman right out of high school. So with that, I want to bring out Bo for just a couple of minutes to talk about the recruiting effort here in the state of Montana, what some things we did this year that under his direction. Our recruiting coordinator, Bo Beck.
Okay. It's a lot scarier talking to y'all than the recruits coming up here. No, first of all, it all started with what Coach talked about. One, he gave me a chance to do this. I wanted to do it and had some ideas. And then 2, all the guys bought into it. And it was a real good team effort from the coaches. And, one of the things that we did is every Friday that we were home, and we've done it in the past, but not to the extent, we had as many coaches out as we could and traveled the state. And it was a lot of fun. I got to go to a lot of different places, as did all the other coaches, with different coaches. And we fought a lot of smoke in the fall. And but I think that being able to have as many coaches out in different areas of the state every Friday and be able to, that kids knew we were coming, the coaches knew we were coming, and have a presence like that has really helped. obviously with the tradition that has been built here and winning that has been built here, it's a lot easier. It's still hard to go to that side of the state at times, but there's welcoming over there. Coach Link and I had to fight our way into a gate, and then those two guys, we won. But I think we did a good job of targeting all the classes of Montana. And what we did yesterday is spend a lot of time looking at the juniors to come. And we started with that last year, put a plan together on how to attack it during the season, and made a commitment to doing it. And it paid dividends to us because we were able to already have relationships with the kids and the coaches far further than just Coach Link and Coach Mack can do as they came in. So.
All right, thank you both. That's a thankless job to be recruiting coordinator, to tell the guys, to talk to the guys about going out onto high school visits and where they're going to travel, and buying the plane tickets on Sundays at the end of the recruiting weekend to get out the next week, not knowing where we're going to go till the weekend's over. I mean, there's a lot of. I know this. Bo told me he's going to actually sleep for 3 days. I gave him some days off, and he's going to sleep most of that time just to catch up. All right, at that point, I'll open it up to questions here first from the media.
Rob, what is it that you personally like about Montana kids?
I think their desire and their work ethic are tremendous in those Montana kids, and they also have a deep-seated loyalty to the institution, at least one or the other of the institutions in this state typically, and so they come in with a loyalty and a desire they understand the rivalry and they understand the importance of football in the state of Montana, and they combine that with their hard work.
How would you overall grade this class compared to others since you've been here?
I really like this class. I think it's as good as any class we've brought in. Many more this year. Last year we only announced 12. So this is a deeper class, having 20 guys in the class, so that gives it a leg up on the class from last year. But talent-wise, I think it's very comparable.
Talk about how much just the success you guys have had on the field the last few years kind of sells itself to these kids that are coming in.
I think winning's very important. I think the two things that guys want to see are success, and they want to see facilities. When you're talking about just the football piece of it, they want to go to a winning program. We hear that all the time. They want to see the facilities. And then the other piece of it, though, is the relationships that they develop with the players when they come on their visit. So that can trump some things sometimes. That could be more important than all the records and all the stadiums and everything if they have a great visit and a great connection. But probably in terms of getting in the door and getting a chance to get them here on the visit, I think the stadium and the winning are probably the two most important things.
Do you believe, Coach, that you've addressed areas of need on this football team?
Yeah, we got somebody at just about every position across the board, and that's what we needed to do. We graduated 17 seniors. We graduated people at every position group in the team except quarterback, and then we moved Austin Barth from quarterback over to tight end here this spring, and that made room for us to have to be able to sign a quarterback, Quinn McQuarrie, out of Manhattan. So every position was really covered, and that's what we wanted to address in this class.
Did you see the visibility of the program increase a little bit with the TV deal, the ESPN game under the lights, stuff like that? Easier to get in the door?
I think that helped us a lot in California and Texas. No question about it. I know when the guys were down on the road, it was easy, it was very easy to talk about to the parents who would say, well, I want to watch my son play. And we could say, you will be able to do that because the games are all on TV and most of them on a much more accessible network.
This list, it looks like a lot of guys that are listed as athletes. Is that something you guys prioritize as far as getting guys that might be able to play a few different spots?
Sometimes you can't pigeonhole a guy. If you look at it, ironically, there are 5 quarterbacks on this list. Okay, but we only plan on one of them going to quarterback right now. The other guys are athletes, guys that'll play safety, receiver, possibly. Come back to quarterback later. In the case of Tanner Roderick, we talked about that, maybe him coming back later. But right now, 4 of those 5 guys are going to be playing other positions, and they're just top athletes, usually better athletes on their team, and so we want those guys in this program.
Gunnar Brecky's a guy that was an athlete, they're listed as an athlete, 2-time AA Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year. Late switch. Can you talk about his recruitment?
Gunnar Brecky is going to play running back for us initially. That's what we've decided to do with him. And we're very excited about him coming here. We recruited him extensively starting a whole year ago. Identified him as a top junior in the state along with a few other guys. And, we were disappointed when he made his initial decision, but then he initiated the reopening of that discussion. And we made sure that he contacted Missoula and told them that he was opening it up at his own request, and once he got permission to do that, then he came back down here and found that he really felt a better connection here as he went through the process. And we're very excited that he's coming. He's a very fluid, athletic, talented young man.
Coach, the heart and soul of your team will always be from the state of Montana, but how crucial has it been to recruit the states of Texas and California in the past few years?
You have to find another place outside of Montana. There's just not enough players in the state for two outstanding programs to fill their entire roster. And so we know we have to identify a spot. Texas is what we initially decided to do when we first got here, and it was very good to us, so we've continued that. And California, we've kind of evolved from Northern California down to Southern California, and that's turned out to be very good. In the last 2 years, we've been, well, 3 really, been very productive finding players from down there. So, those are the 2 areas we've identified. Other schools, if you look at the signing list tomorrow, you'll see out-of-state players coming to Big Sky Conference schools from all different parts of the country. But those are the 2 that we feel are the best for us.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Bo Hughes out of Missoula? He's listed as an athlete. What do you expect him to play, and what really interested you guys in Bo?
Well, Bo was a quarterback of a state championship team and also played defense. Was never came off the field. Really good all-around athlete. Probably project him at safety, but we also are keeping the door open if he wants to play on offense. That's one of the recruiting conversations we had with him, is that we're not going to decide right now because he's a very talented athlete and player, and we'll kind of see where the best situation is once we get him here and get him to compare him with the other guys we have. That's nice to get a guy out of Missoula.
At the skills position, was there a concerted effort to get more speed on the field?
Right. At corner and wide receiver, that was our priority, was speed. And you'll see Jalen Price and Jayshawn Mouton Gates, both those guys have outstanding speed, and that was clearly the priority that we were looking for. Also, Kari Garcia at safety is a very fast player at safety, too.
You said you wanted to recruit or redshirt as many of these guys as possible. Is there a target number, or is that just something that waits until spring?
We won't know until deep into August, if those guys are going to redshirt or not. Our philosophy is if they're going to play a lot, then we'll play them. If they're not going to play a lot, then we might as well redshirt them. And we won't really know that till they've had a few practices under their belts to see how quickly they can pick things up and what their chances are to get on the field.
Coach, you talked a little bit about how exciting today is for you, one of your favorite days of the year, but just to see the culmination of all the hard work of your staff, knowing how much time you guys have put into this, what it means to these players and their families today to be able to sign, just kind of, if you can, sum up what today is all about, what it means to you and the staff to finally be at this moment announcing this to these excited fans.
Yeah, I don't know if people outside of football really, truly do understand, how crucial and how important and how huge this day is. I mean, for the coaches, literally our year starts and ends on this day. I mean, you finish the year, the 2012 season and the 2013 recruiting, it all ends today. And then, like Bo said, we actually cheated a little bit. We used yesterday to start on tomorrow. But, that's when your year starts up again. And there's a finality to it, a satisfaction of having the class completed. Job well done, and then literally in the next 2 or 3 days we'll start over again and start to work on next year. But this is a huge, huge day. And then when you think about what it means for the families, you mentioned the families. I mean, we're talking about, in the case of an out-of-state student, probably a $150,000 value that this person just signed, this young man just signed when he signed his financial aid agreement. As long as he, follows the rules and does the right things, he'll get that scholarship for 4 or 5 years and be able to graduate with an all-expense-paid education. That's huge, especially the value for, either in-state or out-of-state, but in both cases, it's a monstrous occasion for that family.
The 3 running backs you signed, can you go into a little bit of depth about them and what they bring to the program?
Cody Vitt is an 8-man superstar over there in Fairview. Amazing statistics and great production, playing in an 8-man game. He's a big, strong young man. He's a 3.9 student in engineering, and he's just an all-around great, character guy as well as a good, solid runner. And very excited to have him. He'll have the transition, of course, from 8-man ball to 11-man ball, but I think he'll pick that up. Nick Lasan from Dallas is a bigger back who really can run. He's a 200-and-some-pound guy and 4.5 40. Coach North did an excellent job of recruiting him and getting him committed early. He committed to us way back in October. And and really liked Montana State. Came up on a visit during the season and really fell in love with the place. And he's got a really good combination of size and speed. And then Brecky is the third one that we'll have in there, and I already talked about him.
Is Lassane the caliber player you think you might not have got if it wasn't for the injury?
No, he had already committed to us before the injury, so we were fortunate there. I really like his. I mean, he's 210 pounds and runs a 4.5. He's a little, an unusual combination of size and speed for us to be able to get.
Are there any guys in this class that you were surprised when your coaches came to you and said we got him? Were there any guys that?
Well, that process happens over a period of time. I think when you look at a guy like Falabi Akambi, when he's on film, 6'5", 290 with good grades, it's like, really, Bo? You got a chance on this guy? I mean, initially, but then when you start to find out why he's interested in us, then I felt like we had a good chance. I think that's probably the best example. It just, you work along, they're all good. I mean, Toby did a good job with Blake Braun down in Southern California, who had a lot of opportunities, lots of offers. Got a good relationship going. Nick Lassane was another one. Coach Von Bergen did a really good job with Dallas Hayes out of Seattle, because he had some Mountain West interest and an offer and was looking like he was going to go elsewhere, and BB stayed in touch and in communication, and then when something fell through, he was there to be the safety net, and that one fell back in our laps because of his attention to detail on what was going on there. And then again, to go back to Coach Mack and Coach Link in Montana, just pounding the pavements and continuing to work, not just on the juniors we identified, but also on the seniors, because some of the guys we identified early, and other guys we identified as after their senior years as guys that we wanted to recruit.
Coach, we just got done saying goodbye to the winningest senior class in history of MSU football. Do you feel like, starting with this class here, that this program is being put into great hands for the future, for the next 4 to 5 years with these guys? Yeah, well, I like to think that way every year. Yeah, I mean, that's how we should feel today. I think we're continuing the tradition. We have a philosophy, which I mentioned at the beginning. We're hitting on all cylinders on that philosophy. High school guys, Montana guys, good mix of in-state, out-of-state, guys who will succeed academically, and guys who can play. And if we do that every year, then we'll build this program, continually. We'll just keep feeding from the bottom up like you need to do to stay on top.
The Folsom brothers, how does that work? My understanding, Ben's going to go on a mission, Monty's going to come
Right.
back from a mission.
Monty and Ben are going to do Monty's finishing his mission, so Monty Folsom will come back. We signed him 2 years ago. He'll be back in the summertime to start again, we anticipate. And then Ben will go on his mission here starting this summer.
So does Ben count towards this class?
Ben will end up not counting. Once he starts his mission, he won't count.
So then Monty will count for this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about the linebackers? The three main linebackers, Braun, Christensen, and Timber, they all look really aggressive on film. Was that kind of the key characteristic there for you guys?
Well, yeah, I think if you talk to Coach Ione about the linebackers, it's if they can run. They got to be aggressive, certainly, but they've got to be able to guys that can run, go from sideline to sideline. But we asked Kane and the defensive staff, we sort of agreed we wanted to try to get just a little bigger, too, at that position, and we were able to find that combination in all three of those guys. So that was really a good, probably the strongest, deepest position that we came up with three good signees that fit that criteria.
Coach, now that it's all said and done, the names are out there. How anxious? I'm sure you guys do want some rest. You want to let Coach Beck sleep for 3 days, but after that, how anxious are you guys to get these guys here, to get them starting to train and lift and start practicing?
It's a long process from here because there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done. I mean, with the eligibility center, with admissions, housing, insurance, all those kinds of things. So we'll start that long process and finally get everybody here sometime in the summer for an orientation. And many of them will come in July and start to train with our guys. They can do that once they sign with us. That's something that never used to happen, but most of them will come in July and get a chance to train with our guys. So by the time we start August 1st, we'll know them pretty well, and they'll know our guys pretty well, and we'll have a pretty good idea, how they're going to be able to compare.
Any spots left open for JC transfers or drop downs?
We still have probably one more spot, and if we to take a transfer, 1 to 2. So we'll kind of keep our eyes open. Okay. All right, I'll open up any other questions from the visitors here if you'd like to throw out. I think those guys Covered a lot of the angles. Here we go.
Were there any guys that sent you guys tape that your coaches hadn't identified, and then you guys saw the tape and said, "Holy cow, this is someone we need to look at"?
Will there be not in this class?
Kind of fell into that would have been Gates, just because we had his
Right.
brother on the team, and his mom sent it our way.
I didn't take a long time on that. All the rest of the guys came from our recruiting territories, though, where the coaches went out and actually canvassed the area and found the guys. But Coach Beck gets hundreds of emails every week from guys who want to be evaluated. Yeah.
There are people whose names have been thrown around in various aspects who have not really been here in terms of football and are not on this list. Talk about that.
I don't know who that is.
Well, how about the kid from Kalispell?
Well, I can't talk about anybody that's, that I'm not going to talk about anybody that we didn't sign, or anybody that we're still recruiting. Those rules still apply. So, we will announce some walk-ons here in about a week or so. Once they get their admission papers signed and so forth, there will be another handful, anywhere from 3 to 5 guys. But, as far as the roster, our roster and so forth, I think all that's out there. I was going to mention, this day doesn't have the suspense surrounded around it like it used to because of all these media types back here that know all the guys before. We didn't surprise you at all this year, did we?
You didn't get one.
No.
Last year you got one.
Last year I got you on one. But, it doesn't have quite the suspense. All the names are out there, but we're handcuffed because we can't say anything about it until today. So, all right.
Coach?
Yes.
What about the schedule? Has that been completed yet?
No, we're still working to try to get a home game or two to finish it up. We know we'll have 6 home and 6 away. We know our conference games, but we don't have the home schedule finalized yet. All right, thank you very much for coming. One more thing? Oh, one more, sorry.
You talked about when they make the visit, if they lock in with the other players. How does that visit work so they get opportunities?
We allow a lot of time for them to spend with our players. We're allowed 48 hours to have them on campus. We don't take quite that much. We bring them in on Friday, spend the afternoon on academic meetings and appointments, and then we have dinner, and they go out with our players for a while, and then they have a curfew at midnight and come back into the hotel. And so Saturday morning we have a breakfast, and we have football meetings and strength coach and all that. Then they have lunch with our players again, and then in the afternoon we have more football meetings, and then we actually give them time to go take a nap, which may be one of the most important things we do to gain their favor, is giving them a nap, And then they go out again with our guys after dinner on Saturday night for a while. But they also have a curfew, come back in again. So they get some quality time with our players to hang out, and that's really, really an important part of the visit.
Does game day experience play into that a lot?
Not usually. We had some guys, we did bring some guys up for the Stony Brook game, which I thought was a great idea, and we had 3 official visits on that day, and all 3 of them ended up going somewhere else. But they really had a great, I think we got involved with some really good players, and they had some really good options other than ours, but the game day experience was very positive. But I also think they didn't get quite the same amount of time with our players like the other guys do when there's no game going on. And so that may have been a factor, I don't know. Okay, well, thank you very much. Coaches will stick around for a little bit. We're very excited about it. It's a great day to be a Bobcat. Thank you.